Hi everyone, welcome. This is Influenced Colorist. Hope you all are staying warm this winter. Okay, so I'm going to be coloring in this book, Mythographic Wild Winter by Joseph Catimbang. And let's take a look at the page I'll be coloring in. All right, we have this one with these owls, a night sky, and looks like they're on like a mountain, okay? Okay, so here is the deal with these books and my struggle. I love the illustrations and all the mythographic books, but there is just always so much going on. Lots of lines and things intertwined with each other. It can be hard to figure out what is what and can be very intimidating when trying to color these pages. In my mind, I need a simple, like clean lines and definition. So in these books, I need to find ways to simplify all that chaos. And if you are in that same mindset with these books, then these tips might also help you out. Okay, so one way to do this is by a limited color palette. It creates a cohesiveness that is easy on the eyes. I'm going to talk a little bit about color theory, and we're going to look at the color wheel. Okay, so here is my color wheel. I purchased this from Amazon and it's a really great color wheel. I like how it has the little window dividers so you can move this around, and then it has the description of what kind of the color theory would be, and then it's all divided. So really good for if you're wanting to use it for color theory. Also on the other side, or I should explain, so the outside here is your pure color, and then as it goes darker, you're going to be getting your shades. So that is adding grays and blacks to get those deeper shades and tones. On the other side, you also have your pure color. This time you're going to be adding white to get tints. Okay, so that's going to give you those lighter, more pastel colors. So this also is really nice if you're a painter, then you can kind of get a better idea of mixing paint and things like that. All right, so I'm going to go over to the blue area. We'll talk a little bit about this. So well, let's look at our page first. So on my page, when I notice the owls first, and then I notice the night sky. So I'm pretty sure I'm wanting to do some kind of like blue sky. All right, and if I want my owls to stick out, then I'm gonna choose a contrasting or complementary color. So if I look on here, if I go directly across from blue, I get orange. Okay, so it's going to say complementary colors. I'm kind of looking at it as like just blues kind of in the blue family, and then across is like the yellow and orange family. So I'm not going to be super strict about that, but you kind of get the idea. And so what's going on with contrasting colors? So contrasting colors are two colors directly opposite of each other on the color wheel, like I showed you. So anywhere you move this, so if you want to know what the opposite or complementary color of, let's say, red, okay, it's going to be green. So yeah, just a really cool tool. It really helps focus your attention on what you want it to look for. So when you have complementary colors or contrasting colors, those warm and cool colors, these colors are competing against each other and they don't have anything in common. So it's going to make an object stand out. Okay, so for instance, if I color most of all of this area blue, and then I color my owl orange, this is really going to stand out because it's competing with the blue. If I want a more harmonious picture, like a softer picture, then I would choose colors that are closer together on the color wheel. So sticking with more of a monochromatic color scheme, or just colors that are similar, that have things in common. Okay, so anyway, that's just a little bit about color theory. So yeah, that is my plan, is to do a dark blue sky, and then I can have the yellow stars here. The mountain and like the clouds, this is all going to be in shades of blue. The trees I'll probably do in more of like blue greens. And then my owls are going to be orange, okay? So I might mix in some grays or some light blues. I haven't quite figured it out yet as it's coming out of the mountain here. Also, another tip with these books, sometimes I ignore all these little tiny little details in other shapes, okay? So all these little swirls, I'm just gonna pretend like they're not there. Even if there are like hidden objects, sometimes I just color right over them. A lot of people like will paint over them and try to disguise them. Some people, you know, will color them individually to make them stand out. So if I did all this blue and I wanted that boot to stand out, I could do orange and that would make it stand out. So this little hang glider here, I'll probably make him stand out, but I'm not sure about all these other little objects yet. Okay. All right, so that is my plan, and as always, I do a little bit of a little bit of coloring on camera, some speed coloring and some coloring off camera. I try to keep my videos around 45 minutes and give you a finished page at the end, but don't worry, I always will talk through it and tell you what I'm doing. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, I'm gonna be using my new Faber-Castell Arrtx Durer watercolor pencils. So I'm excited to play with those. And then I might be shading with Polychromos, the Faber-Castell Polychromos, because their colors are going to match up perfectly. So yes, and I'll probably also be using some like paint pens and Posca, whatever too. Okay, all right, so let's get started. Okay, I'm starting with the sky because it's the least intimidating. I'm using 3 shades of blue. These are the Arrtx Durer watercolor pencils. I'm using the lightest one around the moon to hopefully give that glow look, and then as it moves away, the blues will get darker. So 145, 246, and 157 are the blues I'm using. I've played a little with these pencils, but not necessarily these colors before, so I'm not sure how many layers or how much pigment I'm going to need to have this good coverage. So I'm just putting down like medium pressure coverage, and then as I'm adding water to some smaller areas, then I can see if I need to add more. So just trying to blend a little bit those 3 blues together. I'm also not coloring or, kind of coloring around the stars. I'm just going right over them because I'm going to be using acrylic paint, which will go right over the pencil. All right, I'm going to be using a water brush to activate the watercolor. I start with some smaller areas first, just to get a feel for the coverage, and then I can decide if I need to layer a bit more color on there, which I do decide to do on the next section. All right, and these cloud formations were the next easiest thing to kind of pick out. I'm using my lightest blue 145, and somehow I managed to record it in slow motion. So I edited most of this portion out, but I'm basically creating shaded circles inside each cloud shape. Okay, here's a look at those, all with the activated with water. Now these next cloud formations have more black line shading, so I'm going to use a different shade of blue. This is my medium blue 246, and same concept of shading, kind of thinking each formation has multiple circles in these clouds and just kind of shading little circles inside those. All right, using more of a blue-green, this is 153 for the trees and some of the forest areas in the background. I forgot that there was this lantern down here, so I'm using yellow 105 for that bright light glow. And I just have to be very careful when applying water. Activating the yellow first, and then I'll let that dry, and then I'll do the blue. And I don't want the yellow and blue to mix, otherwise you're going to get a nice green glow. Now I'm getting into more of those tricky areas, the mountain and the owls. I'm going to start with the darkest blue, 157, and get in those like dark crevices, like shadowed areas. I'm basically following the line art, creating the ridges and the mountains. And then just a light scattered layer of the lightest blue, 145. Okay, on to the owls. Around the eyes, I want that to stand out. So I'm keeping those in just shaded gray and light blue. And then the icicles or crystals won't look like too out of place if I do those in blues. The rest of the owls will, with the exception of like the under part, the belly part of the owl, which kind of turns into the mountain, will be orange. I'm doing a light layer of a shade 109 and then 115 orange to shade around the feathers. For the mountain areas, I'm going to be using the dark blue again for the shadows and the snow, and just keep this closer to the snow colors, but we'll mix in some of the lighter orange up close to the owls to kind of tie it all together. All right, and then using a lighter blue, I'm going to just shade the left side of the trees. And to intensify and define more of the feather segments and the owls, I'll be using some Polychromos to get into those little crevice areas and yeah, just to kind of deepen the shadow areas a little bit more. I'll be using 188, 115, 113, 108, and then the gray I'm using is 234. I started this little hang glider off camera, and I just colored the person part of the hang glider in the dark blues and grays, and then the glider part I'm doing in some oranges. So first I did the watercolor just to put like a light layer of that orange on there, and then I'm just darkening up the shadow areas with color pencil. Okay, next I'm gonna white out the lines on these like cloud ribbon shapes. And I kind of go back and forth between a gel pen and a Posca pen. I don't know, sometimes one works better than the other. I just have to kind of play around with it and see. Now I'm going to use a few types of acrylic paint pens. The Arrtx ones have a more brush tip, so more flexibility to do these kind of long tapered lines in these comets. But then for the smaller stars, the harder tip of the Ohuhu paint pens will be better to get into those little small areas. And I'm going to use the white Posca to add little dots of snow on the trees and even white out some of the lines in these mountain ridges. That way they are brighter and stand out a little bit more. All right, and then to add some sparkle here, I'm going to be using these Coliro metallic watercolor paints. I'll be using this pretty sky blue. It's pretty sheer when it goes on. It looks, pretty blue right now, but it's actually pretty sheer. And then I'll be using that for the ribbons, the cloud ribbons, and anywhere else that I feel like needs just a little bit of shine. All right, this one is all done. I think it turned out pretty good. Not gonna lie, I wasn't sure how the owls would look in orange and how it would look with the mountain kind of blending into the owl, but I think it all works really well. I'm loving the new watercolor pencils. It makes the process go a little bit faster than if I was just using color pencils. So hope you all like it. Pull out those color wheels and try out a contrasting color palette. I'll see you next time. Bye.